Hey folks, welcome back to Canada's Boxing Channel. I hope everyone's doing well, having a good day. As you may know, I quite often like to have a look at some less than mainstream, maybe sources for interesting boxing stories and boxing takes. I think we all, of course, end up watching the big ones, YouTube channels, or reading in the big media outlets. And sometimes it's nice to look at maybe a smaller or possibly simply less predominant in North America, where I am, or in Europe, news outlets. Well, one such outlet that came across my attention, I guess, for want of a better word, is an article written today, Thursday, August the 7th, in the New Zealand Post. And the tagline is, Joseph Parker still waiting for word on world heavyweight title shot against Alexander Usyk. And it's reported by a journalist by the name of Mark Hinton. The article says that there's been some radio silence, that's how it's been described, from the Alexander Usyk camp over the WBO's mandated heavyweight boxing title defense. As we know, Usyk is the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. He's got all the belts that are worth having. And the WBO is sort of next in line to put their mandatory forward. And so the WBO has ordered Usyk to defend against number one contender Joseph Parker. Well, the manager of Joseph Parker has said a number of things which are interesting. Because, of course, the WBO said you've got 30 days from July the 24th to negotiate and get this all organized, and after that it goes to purse bids. So anyhow, David Higgins, who is the manager of Joseph Parker, apparently told this newspaper that they've not heard anything from Usyk camp, and that's where that term radio silence comes from. And so I'll quote what he said. There's been absolute radio silence. We're 2.5 weeks into it, and there's no apparent sign of a pulse. It's wide open, and Joseph is staying patient and staying fit and ready for whatever transpires. Obviously, Joseph's number one preference is to fight Usyk for the undisputed heavyweight world title. That would be the pinnacle of his career. Now, you may remember that Parker, of course, has done another call-out of Usyk this week. And again, he's brilliant at this. I really like these things. Well, he mouthed the words to "Take on me, take on." I'm not going to try and sing it. I mean, that's singing is not my forte. Even fueled with alcohol, it was never my forte. But if you're familiar with the song, maybe go and find Joseph Parker on Instagram. It's very, very good. Higgins said that Parker was really at a kind of a fork in the road of his career. And he went on to say, and I'll quote exactly, he, Joseph Parker, will either be fighting possibly the greatest pound-for-pound boxer in history for the undisputed title, an absolute clinical freak of a specimen who in terms of achievement is arguably the best ever. We would regard that as a privilege. And I can't help but think, what a difference. Parker's management team, maybe even sort of gilding the lily a little bit there, but certainly being like super respectful. Compare that to Team Dubois, who, were the antithesis of being respectful, right? Anyhow, Mr. Higgins went on to say, if he's not fighting Usyk, it will be an easier fight for the WBO title. Joseph Parker would rather take the harder fight for all the belts. That's what boxing should be about. One champion and earning a shot. I have to say, I agree with that. skeptical and cynical person that I am, I think that Parker might end up fighting Moses Itoma for the WBO. I have a funny feeling that Darth Warren has that in his head. But hey, I'm a cynic and a skeptic. Higgins then took aim at a couple of touted people that Usyk had been talking about fighting. First, American YouTube, I don't know what we call him, YouTuber, influencer, part-time boxer, Jake Paul. Anyways, Higgins said, "To me, it is saddening and disappointing talk of Anthony Joshua fighting Paul or Usyk fighting him. It undermines the credibility of boxing as the preeminent adversarial sport. You trained for years, you earned that title shot, you should receive it." I personally could care less if Anthony Joshua fights Jake Paul. There's no belts being held up or anything like that. If he wants to go and do that, then whatever. But I would be very disappointed if Alexander Usyk ever stepped into, well, while he's holding the belts, stepped into a ring or a cage or any other sort of thing with Jake Paul. After he's done, after he's retired, hey, fill your boots. Do whatever you want to do, right? Anyways, Higgins went on to say, money and politics, mainly money, seem to be undermining the merit-based system. Well, we've talked about that for ages. I've done a few videos on here talking about the rating system and how Tyson Fury is still rated as number one. I mean, he's retired, and he's confirmed he's retired. But anyhow, I'm not picking on Tyson here. The rating systems are just, they make no sense. They make no sense to me whatsoever. I see Daniel Dubois is actually now lower in the ratings than Anthony Joshua. How does that work? I truly am asking the question because I honestly don't know, right? So Higgins carries on to say, Usyk earned his way up the old-fashioned way, and part of Usyk probably wants to respect that and give the best guy who earned it a shot rather than join the circus and fight Jake Paul. I hope so. Then came the preponderance of UK fighters, the newspaper is saying. And, there's speculation either that Usyk would fight Fury again, so it'd be a trilogy, or Anthony Joshua again. I don't think either deserve a shot at Usyk. I mean, I suppose an argument could be made that Fury sort of does, but not AJ. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't think Fury either, but nobody cares what I think. So Higgins went on to say, the powers that be seem to only put up UK contenders against Usyk. He's beaten Derek Chisora, he's beaten Dubois twice, Fury twice, and AJ twice. What more can the UK throw at him? There's a much more deserving New Zealander. Pretty much the only top flight guy he hasn't beaten is Joseph. I don't think he's wrong. I mean, you could add Ajit Kabayel in there, right? I mean, I'd rather see Usyk fight Zhilei Zhang. Imagine a fight in the birdcage, massive arena in Beijing. It would be a shot in the arm for boxing. It would bring a lot of people's attention, right? In a part of the world that hasn't seen a lot of heavyweight boxing. And I'm not saying that I want to see that fight, but it'd be better than another retread, wouldn't it? Higgins went on to say, if Usyk just wants to go where the most money is, he could fight another Englishman for the third time in a row, for which there would be a collective worldwide yawn. Yes, I agree. But the Kiwi promoter was prepared to give Usyk the benefit of the doubt. He said, he's earned that. And then he said, he's 38, he's tired, there's war going on in his homeland, he's away from his family. The possibility is he just retires. I would be okay with Usyk just retiring. Slightly disappointed we never got to see him against Parker and Kabayel. But hey, you couldn't say that the guy doesn't deserve a retirement, right? Higgins went on to say, after all he's done, he deserves time out to rethink, reflect, to make a decision. We respect Usyk. what else do you say? We're veterans now. Nothing in this business surprises us, and we're certainly measured in our expectations. If I was a betting man, the chances of Usyk taking the fight, this would be the Parker fight, are 50-50 at best. You've just got to be philosophical. If he doesn't take it, Joseph will be made champion and defend the title or fight for the vacant title. Whatever way you look at it, the chances of his next fight being a world title fight are very high. Yeah, I would imagine so. Though, inactivity kills fighters. And Parker might fall into that trap that I think, was it Hrgovic fell into? You know, basically marking time, you know, marching in place, right? And inactivity. It wouldn't surprise me if, having only had like one competitive round in forever, that a guy like Moses Itomo comes and surprises and beats Parker. Where does that leave Parker, right? Anyhow, I'm digressing. In terms of when we would see Parker fight, Higgins has another message, and this is directed to Queensberry, Frank Warren, Darth Warren. And he says, and I'm going to quote exactly again, if he doesn't fight before the end of this year, Queensberry Promotions are in an egregious breach of contract. Frank Warren looked Joseph in the eye and said he'd give him a big fight in the third quarter. We expect Queensberry and Frank to do what they said. And if they don't, it just means they can't be trusted. So those are some strong words. Of course, Frank Warren, very familiar with litigation, knows his way around a courtroom. And no one's really no one's talking about that at this present moment in time. But clearly, I think this is the strongest thing I've read about there being a little bit of potential friction between Joe Parker's team, if you like, and the promotional company Queensberry Promotions, which is supposedly looking after Joseph Parker's best interests. Interesting. I occasionally wonder about, you know, this sort of conflict of interest where the promoter has signed up like 2 or more fighters. So, you know, like, how could Frank Warren be acting in the best interest of both parties? You know, it's a little bit like if you've got a realtor that's estate agent, for those in the UK, who's on both sides of the real estate deal, or a lawyer representing two different clients, right? Who are, I mean, at odds with each other. Anyhow. But I thought it was an interesting article. Like I say, the Post in New Zealand, clearly, you know, talking to their you know, local guy, right? So we'll have to see where it goes. I very much want to see Usyk fight Parker, and if for some reason he doesn't fight Parker, then I want to see him fight Caballero. I have no way of explaining it. I have negative amounts of interest in seeing Usyk fight AJ again, Dubois again, Fury again, Chisora again. And I don't want to see him fight anybody else other than these two, with the possible exception, I would say, of Zhilei Zhang, like I mentioned. And but other than that, I mean, really, there isn't that much excites me. So there we go. Mr. Higgins clearly speaking very firmly about this issue. So that's all I've got for the moment. If I see anything else that I think is interesting to share, I'll make another video. If not, well, I'll just see you on the next one, right? Thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye-bye.